Hey everybody, welcome to the ARCHLOGBOOK CHATS. Today, I have a special guest. He is DSmith-Alexander. He's an architectural designer based in the US. He has been in the industry for about 10 years and he calls himself an urban theorist, a singer-songwriter, real estate investor. He has also designed affordable housing, civic and cultural structures for the benefit of African American as well as Caribbean communities in the US as a design lead and architectural designer for the Urban Architectural Initiatives. He's also the member of the National Organization of Minority Architects as a first generation Jamaican American based architectural designer in the New York City and Caribbean region. So without further ado, let's say hi to Dwayne. Dwayne, say hi. How are you?
Hey guys, how you guys doing? Thank you so
Nice
much
to
for
meet
having me,
you.
Gabriel.
Alright, so the first thing I want to talk to you about was your journey in architecture. I know you have been through quite a lot of experiences and projects, and maybe you want to touch upon the project that you want to share more about, which is the Pan African Community Center. So yeah, just take it away to share about your background and where you are right now.
Absolutely. So I started my journey exactly about 10 years ago. I graduated from, well, I should say 11 years actually. I graduated from Howard University back in 2011. And from then on, I worked in, maybe two or three offices before I landed at the firm that I currently am at. And I've been working here for about 10 years. So I'm currently at a firm called Urban Architectural Initiatives, UAI. Uh, so far I've been involved or immersed in many different, uh, typologies for architecturally. So starting off with rehabs and more about, affordable housing, moving towards wood frame, uh, new structures, and then moving down to more of the Manhattan area to work on my latest project that was just completed, actually, which took about 5.5 years, which was a Pan African Minority Youth Community Center. The name of the center is called the Brotherhood Sister Soul, or for short, BroSis. So that's been what I would say is the greatest project that I've worked on, so far in my 10-year journey. And currently this is where I'm at. Just almost looking back and seeing how I can essentially take all the experiences that I've learned in the last 10 years and somehow put that into a form or an element where I can, give back and share my experiences with younger architectural designers or architects.
So what got you started in, what inspired you to be part of this project? Is it about your background or is it something that stems from your own interests and passions within architecture itself?
Well, my last project, actually, I was lucky. Essentially, what happened is the project really just landed on my desk, and it wasn't until about 2 or 3 months into the project that I saw the opportunity and how big it was. So essentially, it was essentially me really designing it, but it was more so just learning as well how to design such a building with my firm and my principals and my bosses really guiding me and teaching me the ropes on how to actually really design a really aesthetically challenging and complex building and actually getting it built. So I think that was uh, my experience on that particular project. So it really just landed on my desk, really.
So I guess it's quite interesting to see how someone maybe would you consider yourself like a minority in a very U.S. Situation, right? And then focusing on something that is you know very helpful to your community, right? Is it is this is this part of the reason why you only focus on this particular community, or is it maybe just a certain opportunity that came to your door?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think, as employees in any industry, I mean, you choose where you want to work. I mean, sometimes you have to just get a job, but I think that it was important for me when I went to go do my interview with the firm that I'm at that they mostly provide housing, affordable housing for underserved communities, so minorities, individuals who don't necessarily have the means or live at or below the poverty line. So I think that it was important for me, in a way, to use my craft to give back to a community where I come from with minority individuals. Uh, so it was a bit of both. I feel like I chose, and then also the projects that landed on my desk obviously were in line with what the firm stood for and the projects that they mostly completed.
Right, I guess it's quite such an honor for you to work on these sort of projects. And what was the number one lesson you learned with designing affordable housing? Was it something that you didn't expect, or something that surprised you?
Well, the one lesson that I've learned, and yes, it is an honor. The one lesson that I've learned is that basically, at least in my experience, that you just have to always, and this is just architecture period, you always have to come from a place where you're constantly a student. Um, in my particular journey, I have never done the same kind of building twice, so I never really had the chance to learn something and then apply it again. It's always been, I'm designing one type of building and then I'm moving on to a different type of building and moving on to a different type of building. So I've been a student for the last 10 years. So that's pretty much has
I
been
think we
my
all are
journey. So
students actually. Yeah.
exactly. So I think that for my journey, it's really just always being a student.
What was the process like? At the very start, do you get to meet them in person? Do you do some research basically on their needs? Was there any like interactions with the residents to be? How was it like?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Well, actually, on the last project that we worked on, the Pan African Minority Youth Community Center, uh, yes, we met them quite often. So essentially, what happens is that the client comes, they give their brief or their program or what they'd like to have in the particular structure, and then you start to create a form and a function of what the space would look like, and then how it would actually be occupied. So you're creating occupiable spaces, you're creating nodes, you're creating adjacencies, putting spaces together, presenting that back to the client, see if it works. And essentially, it's never a straightforward process. I mean, I think up until even now, I mean, we just finished the building maybe about a month ago, and there's still things that we're looking at to change. So it's a constant process of doing and redoing and resketching and redesigning. It just never ends. So don't ever think that you design something and it's complete the first time or the second time or even the third time around. It just keeps going. So
Yeah, I think I can speak for other architects as well as myself that there's always experimentation. There's always a reason to apply what you've learned in the previous project and put it into the new one. And also the importance of doing your research, getting to talk to the future users of the building, gathering their needs, and all their wants, and sometimes also maybe filtering them and see what is relevant and what's not relevant. And was there any challenges along the way that you faced, especially both the community center as well as the affordable housing projects that you did?
yes, there were many challenges. I think architecture is just a challenging industry by default.
Yes.
Um, so the challenges obviously were, I think it's the fact that there's many hands in the pot from both sides. You know, as architects, we have, or I should say, architectural designers and architects, we have sub consultants, individuals who we employ or hire to assist with the design of a building, specifically different functions. You have HVAC, electrical, uh, and all the different functions that you have to have within a building, and then you have the actual guys who are building it, right? So you have the general contractor; he has his subs, and then I think it's putting all of that together. The challenges uh, lie within just coordinating everything and making sure everyone understands the game plan, and that is, I think, the most challenging part. There's many challenges in architecture, but I would say that is the most challenging part of designing and building a building. Is just making sure everyone's on the same page, making sure all the drawings that are distributed are up to date, that everyone has the most up to date drawings, that especially your sub as an architect or your sub consultant as an architect has the latest backgrounds, that the GC has those same backgrounds. So it's all. I think it's the challenge. The main challenge in architecture is coordinating and coordination of all drawings and all documents.
Yeah, I highly agree with you actually. So other than the technical side of things, the soft skills, the communication, the coordination, also making sure that everyone's aligned on the same page, the same timeline, same targets. It's a skill that architects are put into, because we are the leaders of the project. And then I think that is the best analogy, right? Basically, we are the orchestra, the main person guiding the orchestra, and everybody's playing their parts, and then that's how we get the project, completed and on time, as well as well meets the needs of the users, right? So that is, I also agree with that is the challenge, and I guess even after 10 years, you maybe for yourself, you also find that still things to learn about it. How do we make it faster? How do we uh, make sure that these miscommunications do not take place? And yeah, I can also say that I also having some. I've already been in the industry for 3 years, about 3 to 4 years.
Hmm.
So I also agree with you that this soft skill of communication is very key.
Yeah,
So
I think that. Yeah, I was
yeah, go
gonna
ahead.
say. I think that. The way I like to put it in a short documentary that I'm putting out is, we're like the grand coordinators,
Hmm.
of a project. It's like we're at the helm and just essentially making sure that everyone is in line and playing their part correctly.
Yeah, so everyone has a part to play, even, and then our role is to make sure that everyone does a good job, and then we all meet the same targets.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to just go a little bit into uh, your other works, right? So there is you are also interested in sharing about your knowledge and your experiences, right? Through documenting the process of like building from an architect's perspective. I think you want to share a bit more about that, like your desire to share more.
Yes, absolutely. So what I'm doing together now is I'm putting together a documentary. Uh, that's not a BBC style documentary or some kind of a top tier documentary. It'll be really on the ground. Uh, the kind of footage will be, some from my official camera, some from my phone, uh, some from my GoPro. But essentially, from the beginning of this process of designing, specifically the Pan African Minority Youth Community Center, I've been just capturing footage and essentially really trying to capture all the different challenging points and showing how we transitioned through all those challenges. So that's something that I will be putting out in a documentary. It'll be about 30 minutes long, and it will have about 10 sections within, uh, 3 minutes per section. So we're going to dive into things such as coordination. We're going to dive into things such as uh, client management, dealing with general contractors, and what you should expect from general contractors, and really showcase the process from a pure novice architectural designer's perspective. I think that's what I really wanted to get across because, I just feel as though architecture is not really broadcasted uh, in depth like other professions and industries, such as fashion or any other profession. I think that in architecture, really what we mainly see is just the final product and someone cutting the ribbon, and it's like, wow, great job. But, this last project I worked on for 5.5 years, and it's a lot of in-depth knowledge that I feel like could be gained from watching a documentary such as the one that I'm going to put out. So essentially, it's really to help, especially for younger architectural designers, so that they can see the entire process, not just from a design perspective or from designing, but also from, dealing with the client, dealing with the general contractor, coordinating, changing things messing up in the field, learning how to pivot, things of that nature.
Yeah, I think I'm doing a really good service to the architectural fraternity by documenting the whole process. And I also agree with you really, like, we always see the building as the product that we give, but the service that we go through from the very start to the very end is hardly being showcased in a very truthful manner, I would say, because we don't show the bad parts. We only show the good parts, like the fun parts, But
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to the documentary that you're putting out. I'll definitely share it with my community in our logbook. But just want to dive in a little bit to like, uh, what what made you start this documentary? What was there any pain point that you felt that you see in the industry, or is it just a particular passion that you had?
I think it's a bit of both. The pain point is that I can't find this documentary anywhere. I think most architectural documentaries that I've seen really lie heavily on the side of design and the aesthetic portion of architecture. And you really see things from the top down. So you'll see things from the perspective of, the boss or the main principal of the firm. Um, and traditionally, those documentaries, uh, you more so see the life of that particular individual. But I think that what I'm trying to showcase is me being an employee within a firm and really managing essentially everything uh, on the project, especially from a drawings and construction documents perspective. So that's really what I'm trying to showcase on and just show the pain points of how certain things weren't coordinated on drawings, because on this project there were many. And I think that essentially that's what I'm trying to really have showcased. And then secondly, yes, it's actually a passion of mine, because this is a project that I worked on for many years. And although it's done now, many people don't know all the pain points that we went through. So it'll be good to just showcase sort of like a backstory to this finished product in Manhattan.
Because I'm pretty sure that the showcasing of this whole process not only just benefits the in terms of showing case our abilities, in as architects to navigate the project from start to finish. But I guess it also helps the students, currently who are studying in architecture school to have a better idea about what to expect as an architect, right? What challenges do I need to do to face? How can architects solve a problem, maybe on site or maybe even during the project meetings, and all these skills that sometimes are not taught in schools. I guess that is the the best way to show it is to document the process. And
Hmm.
I'm quite sure that people watching the documentary, maybe students or maybe the general public, will have a better understanding of what we do as architects. So I'm looking forward to
Right.
it, and I can't wait to see it.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you.
if when it comes to the I saw you started becoming more active on social media to share your projects and share your journey in architecture, right? And in fact, it reached out to me through Instagram, right? And to have this opportunity to be on the podcast to record. And yeah, I feel that a lot of new architects, maybe like in 5 to 10 years, are starting to use social media as a tool to document the process, to share more about our lives, and not just show the buildings as in the photograph, but also show the behind the scenes and maybe sketches or even uh, maybe massing models, stuff like that. What do you think about this new age of architectural publicity, even using social media as a tool? What are your thoughts about it?
I think it's great. I think it's something that we're still navigating, because I feel like architectural students, or the culture of being an architectural student, has definitely taken off on social media, specifically Instagram and TikTok. Uh, but I think that the being in the profession of architecture is very taxing and time consuming. So many architectural professionals still have not used the power of social media and TikTok to essentially get work and jobs. I think that more individuals have used it just to show relevance and to have a profile. But I think that you know the time has come where architects can actually use Instagram, social media, TikTok to actually draw in clients and potentially get work and jobs for their firms. So one thing that I've done is, I think that, and I heard this from someone who I actually look up to in the social media space, who puts out quite a few YouTube videos. Um, what I've done is I've showcased the entire process of this last building that I worked on my Instagram channel.
Mm.
So if you go on my Instagram, you'll go into my highlighted stories. You can go back literally to the almost the beginning, showcasing all the sketches, uh, documenting when we completed the sea docks, when we laid, the first pile into the ground, when we dug the foundation, when the steel was erected, when we topped out. So essentially showing the entire process and my emotions at those particular moments. Uh, I think that's very important because now you're creating a story for, you know, future clients, or even future individuals who are students, or even individuals who are not necessarily in architecture, to become a part of it. One thing that I like about the fashion industry is that they're very open and they bring you along. Like a designer will bring you into his workshop to show you how he's putting together the latest, spring collection for their particular fashion brand. So I think that it's important for us to do the same, to showcase our experiences, because that brings in work, but then also it showcases architecture to the world and ups or elevates the need for people to understand and to get involved with architecture, even if they're not architects themselves or involved in the profession directly.
And I see that actually the more that we showcase our stories and also the value that we bring, uh, and I'm not sure about in the US, but in Singapore right now, there's a bit of a crisis in terms of the manpower as well as the environment that we work in. Uh,
Mhm.
Young designers are facing the heat, basically in toxic environments, or maybe even low salary, possibly due to the low fees that architects maybe put out in the proposals to the clients.
Right.
And I guess one of these, the more we share about our processes, right? I'm not sure if you agree, but the more we show our processes, the more the clients understand what we do, and that also raises the value that we bring. And I guess the articulation of this value is still undermined in terms of our industry and as architects, as we don't really showcase everything that we do, and also maybe the boring parts, the parts that we don't really share. That could also be the things that the client do not know, and also maybe underpriced. The way we
Hmm.
also, as architects, sometimes in the firms, like the directors and principals, they may not be able to convince clients that why we charge a higher price, and then maybe
Right.
they relegate to a lower price, and then there's a triple effect, such that the amount of money that we bring into the firm, it indirectly also affects the salaries that we can take home, right? And also the manpower
Absolutely.
they can have for our project.
I
Yeah,
100% agree. I think, yeah, I'm sorry. I 100% agree. I think that everything you said is 100% correct. Um, and I think that's why it's important for more architects to really take social media seriously, because most people, when, you know, even, big developers, they communicate through their phones. And it's very important for us to showcase the entire process and show how long and fulfilling, draining but also fulfilling, it's so important for us to show the process, because as you said, clients, you know we may do a sketch for them and give them a full program, full function, how to build their space, look at zoning code, building code, how to actually put that building in the place that it's in and have it actually be regulated to the laws, but then also look uh, like an aesthetic, pleasing structure. It's a lot of work, but I don't think clients really understand uh, that we have to go through all these processes, and that we have to, uh, you know, dot off all the I's and T's, cross off all the T's, and really make sure that the building is not only occupiable but also uh, stable, structural, that it's functional, that it has the proper electricity, the proper HVAC, and that it looks a certain way. So I think it's very, very important for us to share our process uh, via social media, so that they can see, and so when we charge them, it uplifts the industry. You get more people who want to come into architecture and stay into architecture.
yeah. So I guess this is we're all working towards it. I'm sure as more architects are sharing their stories and the processes, I'm pretty sure that clients will understand what we are doing, and we can, as a whole industry can actually raise our value and prices such that we are able to be more sustainable as an industry, right? A lot of people are considering to leave just because maybe it's a bad environment, or maybe it's low salary compared to tech industries, or they are paid so much more, and there's some sort of disparity there. Also, maybe because of the supply and demand. But I'm quite optimistic that given that technologies are now, we are actually now in the influx, right? We are all, especially for the building construction industry, technology is just starting its infancy in terms of its implementation, both in design and construction. And yeah, I'm quite excited about it. How do you see this industry changing like in 5-10 years time?
Yeah, this is a great point actually. Because it's funny enough, I actually just bought my first iPad. And I didn't see the value in it until I actually sketched using until I actually sketched on an iPad, and how it just changed my entire process of design. So I think that technology is going to play a great and huge role in architecture. And I think that one thing that the pandemic did is it really accelerated technology and pushed us to the forefront. I mean, individuals having to be home, not being able to meet on site, uh, but somehow you still have to do the same amount of work. I know my office never closed, so I think that technology will affect us greatly, and that it's going to become a part of the way how we teach architecture in schools, the way how we operate in firms, to actually use new programs, new technologies. I mean, for instance, I'm so used to sketching in a pad or on an actual with sketch paper, but using Morpholio and SketchUp and Dynamo and Grasshopper and Rhino, uh, all of these different type of technologies. I think that uh, it'll just essentially we're looking towards the same goal, but it'll make things easier. But in a way, every program comes with their own set of problems, and I think that once you identify those problems and become an expert in those, and still do the same thing that we've been doing for thousands of years, which is building, and constructing the built environment, I think that it will greatly change uh, the use cases and the job titles. There are going to be individuals who are proficient in more of a pragmatic design, where you plug in numbers and you have code in Grasshopper, right? So I can't speak to it obviously because we're not in the future, but I think that it will definitely be a big change, and I think that more firms should start to implement just research areas within their firms, just so that one or two individuals, or even a handful of individuals, can actually look into, really just seeing what else is out there, seeing what's on the horizon of programs. Because I remember when Morpholio was just like a, a cute little thing, and now it's pretty much a necessity for a lot of individuals, especially if you're mostly doing field work. So I think technology will be huge in the next 5 years.
It's very good points that you shared with us. Just want to go a little bit into education, as you know, there's always a gap, right, in practice and education. And for yourself, you've already been in the industry for about 10 years. So, was there anything that you wish to have learned in school that you maybe missed out and you realized in practice?
Something that I missed in school. Well, I'll say in school, school is like it's a good time to spread your wings because you're not gonna understand everything. Architecture is I think it's too big and it's too vast. So I think uh, school is when, for me, it was just when I found my architectural identity. It was when I found out who I was, or what I wanted to do, or who I wanted to be within this
Mm.
profession. And then the first about 4 or 5 years was navigating the industry to find my way. And I think that with this latest project, I was able to put myself and be in a place where I feel like I'm valuable. I'm giving back real and true value to my community. Because my first couple of years in the firm that I work at now I was sort of in limbo, or in a state of limbo, where I was working on projects that really didn't fulfill me. Um, and I know many individuals won't get the opportunity to work on projects that fulfill them. But I think that it's very important in identifying that in school, and as you start to navigate the profession, that may change or it might stay the same. For me, it stayed the same. Um, so yeah, I think school is a great time to just you know spread your wings and try and just really design freely, free of the building actually getting built, and free of technical coordination, if that makes any sense. Obviously, you're gonna have to still do details and have an understanding of having space in the ceiling for air handling units or HVAC equipment or things of that nature. But I think that definitely you should be more focused on the aesthetic aspect of things, if that's what you want to do. I mean, there are some architects who are more uh, they pivot, or they subject themselves more towards just the technical aspect of architecture, like construction documents and details and building, and they're not really too much on the aesthetic. So I think it's just finding out who you are. That's all, between the two areas of school and then also in the real world.
I actually love how you mentioned like you're still finding for the first 5 years of your practice, right? You're still figuring out what you want to do and what you don't like to do. And I also like to stress the importance of that because we're still learning about ourselves even after school, right? In school, maybe we think that we want to do this kind of architecture projects. And then slowly when we go to industry, we find that we don't want to do this anymore. I feel like more passionate about other like housing or maybe even community projects. And just wanted to share with the listeners, right, who are still figuring out about their the architectural path, like what should they do, is never ending journey, right? You still figure out things that you didn't expect, even way after school has ended for and when you graduated, and that is the beauty of architecture, right? It's always blossoming, it's always changing and adapting, and we are on this journey to discover more about ourselves as well as the the project that we feel passionate about, and also the things that we want to do and want the impact we want to create. So I guess that when you mentioned about the first 5 years, still figuring out what you want to do, I think that it's very important to see to at least to let the listeners know that uh, it's never ending and it's always you can always go for a different path, right? Speaking about different paths, you also are a real estate investor, and maybe want to share a bit more about how you get started in that, and maybe any advice for those who are considering to do it.
Yeah, so I think it goes back to something that you mentioned, a few moments ago, where I think architecture is great, um, but I think it's good just as an individual to diversify your income. So about 3 years ago, I there was an opportunity for me to buy a home and to flip a home, and I was essentially able to make almost double what I make in my salary in about a month. So that just blew my mind as far as like how that's possible, and I think I stayed on that path to really invest into real estate, and just to have something to hold on to when I'm old and gray, Lord willing. And I think that yeah, it's very important to diversify your income. The way I would say to get into it is just to figure out the trends of whatever's going on. I think that you know 10 years ago people were wholesaling and flipping houses, and now individuals are more so into crypto and doing Airbnbs and drop shipping and doing e-commerce and things of that nature. So it's about identifying opportunities and really just aligning yourself with one or even two of those opportunities and seeing whatever you can get from the market. So that would be my advice as far as how to start, uh, in just investing in real estate or any side hustle, so to speak.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact that side hustling is getting more important, especially in this age, when there's inflation, there is all
Yeah.
this cost of living is getting higher and higher, and then I myself am also doing ARCHLOGBOOK, which is like a education platform for architects. So I I'm working on ebooks, I'm working on online courses, workshops in the
Hmm.
pipeline, and also always think about ways how can I diversify my income, just like you. And I agree that we need to not only just base our life on architecture, but also to branch out and to see what are the hobbies that we can actually not monetize or may not monetize, maybe have a little like side income just in case, maybe our
Yeah.
industry there's recession, it can happen actually very soon, and a lot of people are saying that. So we have to be ready for all these background plans, right? And I applaud you for trying different things like real estate investment, and also the other thing that you mentioned. Also, you're also part of the League of Exemplary Men. Maybe you want to share a bit more about that, like what do you get started in that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something that my brother and I, my elder brother and I, started about 9 years ago, and it's really an accountability group. What we've noticed is that there's three tiers to every individual's life. You need mentors, you need running mates, so individuals who are like friends who are trying to accomplish the same things that you're trying to accomplish, and then also mentees. So it really started out as just an accountability group between my brother and I to make sure that we, uh, really was able to hone in and have goals and you know stay pretty much on them. And I think that what eventually started to happen is that, you know one of the sayings that we like to say in the LOEM, which is what it's, what that's the abbreviation of what it stands for, the League of Exemplary Men, is that we like to say that, uh, you can go faster alone, but you can also go farther together.
Mhm.
So essentially, we started to invite more individuals in the group. It's about 10 of us now. And what we do is we leverage each other's information. So on everything, like for instance, one of the members in the group, they're a civil engineer. So I'm an architectural designer, and I can use their knowledge to further my understanding and my career in architectural design, just from an understanding perspective. There's other individuals who understand stocks, business, drop shipping, real estate, such as myself. And really, we just help each other. And I think that everyone should have some sort of an accountability group. So, we have mentors as well and mentees. So, uh, it's been a great journey so far, just getting to really, do my thing in architecture, and then also, side hustle, and then also educate with my brothers from the League of Exemplary Men. So definitely shout out to my friends.
Sounds like a very great initiative, and yeah, I'm quite excited for you to see, how how do we balance architecture with other things. It's a lot of different. Some of my peers that I know of, they focus their entire life just to do architecture, and they work
Hmm.
long hours, And to me,
Yeah.
that is quite a shame in a sense. But it's not only just about architecture, right? There's also opportunities to network beyond architecture, not to just stay in the bubble, and also to only talk to architects, but we also talk to engineers. We talk to maybe even psychologists, anybody who's we may not actually normally talk to in projects. But I'm was there anything that struck you? Maybe that someone said, or someone commented who's not an architect, that you can actually apply to your own projects.
Absolutely. I can speak for hours on this topic. I think that, first, before I answer the question, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that in order to be a better architect, you have to have an understanding of the world as someone who doesn't walk around and look at buildings all the time, right? Like, um, as much as we love to identify and scope and really get into the built environment, other people are just living in the environment. So I respect individuals like, I forget his first name, but in Paris you have like the Haussmann style architecture. Like, there was a psychological intention behind the way that those buildings were designed in Paris, right? Because he understood that psychologically the sheen of the architecture affects just about everything, like the way how the people move throughout the city, the way that they psychologically feel, the way when people come to Paris, there's a certain joy and gall and love for being in such a beautified and beautiful city. So I think it's important to, yes, obviously we're architectural designers, we're architects. We have to see architecture from our perspective because we are the ones building it. But you also have to have a sense to just design it where, someone is just getting off of work at 5 p.m. They don't work in the architectural industry, and they want to go by a pier to look over on the skyline of Manhattan. How do you design that, right? I think it's understanding things from that particular level. And as far as if anyone said anything to really inspire, how I design as an architect, I think one of my great influences is uh, industrial designer by the name of Dieter Rams. I think everyone knows who he is, um, but he's really
Mm.
big on just uh, on designing everything, right? I think he's one of those guys, or one of those individuals who, I mean, he looks at the way that we exist as humans. Like, how will you walk to your fridge, and how will you open the fridge, and how will you put food into your bowl? How will you package, your milk into your carton? Like things of that nature. Like, I think it's about looking at just life, overall life, and every single aspect of life as something that can be designed, and then it can be designed more efficiently and better.
I think it's a very good uh, lesson and to share very. Just want to conclude the podcast. Maybe you want to share a little bit of advice to those young designers who are starting out, maybe or mid-career architects. Maybe in 5 years, what was something that maybe you have learned, or maybe you want to share in terms of advice to them?
Well, the first thing I could say is that it will take time. Uh, it will take time for you to understand architecture. I remember when I was very young, I was frustrated that I didn't know everything. Um, most of the individuals in my firm were able to work on one style of architectural development, and they really was able to hone their skills, whereas I was always thrown into different project styles, so different donors, different organizations, different expectations as far as architecture, accessibility, things of that nature. So understand that learning architecture will take time. If you're a very young architecture, if you're still in school, as I was saying earlier, try and spread your wings and figure out exactly who you want to be in this profession. And you do that by just seeing what you gravitate towards. It's very simple. If you're more of a designer, then you should seek opportunities where you're able to design. If you're more on the technical side of things, where you just like to figure out problems and really coordinate uh, and be more of a grand coordinator, we all have to be coordinators. But if you're more on the side of just understanding the project from a technical footing, then you need to seek opportunities that will push you more into that direction. So yeah, I think that you just need to spread your wings, and then understand that it takes time. Like, you have to be grounded. Most individuals, architecture is one of those professions where you learn for life, right? Because you're always constantly being challenged and tested, and uh, so just understand it takes time, and just be easy with yourself. Don't stress out too much, and get into architecture, but also try and live a life outside of architecture as well. Like, and understand what your internal code is when it comes to building and design.
That's such an excellent way to end the podcast. Thank you so much for your time, Smith, and
Thank
I
you
hope
so
to see
much,
you maybe
Gabriel.
in person in the US.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. If you ever come over, or if I ever come there, let's definitely, catch up, get some coffee or something like that. Figure out how you could better the world of architecture.